I thought she was quite wrong, because to say that someone has brought on themselves, which is effectively what she was saying, a sleazy lifestyle, and as a result of that had died, so I thought, frankly, it was in extremely bad taste. She didn't know what was happening. At the time, it was intruding and speculating on all sorts of things which she cannot possibly have had any knowledge of, and what she was essentially doing was giving vent to the most crude type of homophobic prejudice. And I don't think there's any place in a civilized society for that. It's a very similar sort of prejudice to the sort of prejudice that we've previously been talking about against ethnic minorities. Because what we have to remember is that all of us sometimes find ourselves in a minority. All of us. It may be people on the right defending countryside alliance marches against banning fox hunting, for example. It may be people on the left. All of us find ourselves in a minority, and we need to respect each other's rights. And that was an article which did not respect the gay community and really undermined, I think, their civil rights, and was a very, very retrograde step.
One of the things that she wrote was that Gately's death was another blow to the happy ever after myth of civil partnerships. Saeed Avasi, you've written about the promotion of homosexuality undermining family life. Presumably, therefore, you were against the teaching of homosexuality, or you were against the scrapping of Section 28. What's your view about this issue? And are you in favour of civil partnerships?
No, I mean, if I can go back to the question which was asked...
Should it have been published, yes, but we've got a bit beyond that now.
Well, I actually think that newspapers do have the right to publish articles, but I also regularly say that journalists and newspapers have a responsibility sometimes not to. And I think that journalists need to take that responsibility quite seriously. And one of the ways that I was brought up as a young person was that when somebody dies, we say they are hopefully resting in peace, and therefore once they have gone from this world, to take their name in vain and say the things that were said in that article is not acceptable.
Do you support that part of it which talks about the blow to the happy ever after myth of civil partnership?
No, I don't. I think the whole article was very distasteful.
You're in favour of civil partnerships?
I think that people who want to be in a relationship together in the form of a civil partnership absolutely have the right to do that.
OK, fine. Nick Griffin?
I'm against the teaching of homosexuality to primary school children. In fact, I'm against the teaching of any sex to primary school children. I think that's wrong. But I believe that the freedom of the press, as Bonnie said, is an absolute foundation stone of our democratic system. So the Mail can publish if they want, but I personally also believe that it's better to, in the case of someone like Stephen Gately, who's died, to abide by the old maxim, of the dead say nothing unless good, and I think it was wrong.
Okay. Was what she said about the under the carapace of glittering hedonistic celebrity, the ooze of a very different and more dangerous lifestyle has seeped out for all to see? Isn't that rather in line with your view, that people find homosexuals creatures repulsive, as you said about homosexuals?
I've said that a lot of people find the sight of two grown men kissing in public really creepy. I understand homosexuals don't understand that, but that's how a lot of us feel. A lot of Christians feel that way, Muslims, all sorts of people. I don't know why, it's just the way it is. And we have come... Again, I took a party... I took a party 10 years ago which said that homosexuality should be outlawed, people should be driven underground and persecuted. The British National Party position now is that what people do in the privacy of their own homes is absolutely up to them, and the state has no right to interfere, but nor do militant homosexuals, that's not all of them, but militant ones, do not have the right to try and preach homosexuality to school children. That is perverse.
OK, you sir. Yes, great.
Do you reckon the head of the Christian sect here in Britain agrees with your views?
There is no particular head of a Christian sect.
No.
All right, Jack Straw.
The Daily Mail and other papers should be free to publish within the law, and they were entitled to publish this. I regarded the article as odious. It fans homophobia. And my belief is that we will only get a decent society if we do respect people's differences. That's the truth of it. And to suggest that Paul Stephen Gately's death suggested that civil partnerships were now, as it were, to be abandoned, is as ludicrous as suggesting that because some marriages end in difficult divorce, there's something fundamentally wrong with the institution of marriage. Of course, that is utter nonsense, and I celebrate the fact that civil partnerships have been introduced and that people who are gay and lesbian are now able to honour their relationship in public through a ceremony. Why not? I think that's really good.
I'll take one point from the person way at the very back there on the right. Yes. Quick point, if you would.
Hello. As a person in civil partnership and a homosexual, Mr. Griffin, I can tell you that the feeling of repulsion is mutual. I respect the fact the Daily Mail published that article, and I take a great deal of comfort in the fact that it was so widely reviled, and good on the Daily Mail for publishing it, because it's showing that the British public aren't homophobic, and Mr. Griffin, you're in a very small minority.
Okay. We're coming towards the end of the programme. We've only got a few minutes left. I want to go back to this programme itself and whether this programme was the right programme for Question Time to put on, with a question from Pat Connaughty, please. Pat Connaughty.
Might this programme be viewed as an early Christmas present for the BNP?
Is this programme viewed as an early Christmas present for the BNP? The words of Peter Hain, the Welsh Secretary, who attacked us consistently for having Mr. Griffin on the panel. Has it been a Christmas present for the BNP? I suspect it's for you, the audience, to decide, but Chris Huhn, you start on this.
Well, clearly,
we have to be
it is a Christmas present for the BNP, but I think that when a party gets to a certain stage in our democracy and elects people at national level, as the BNP has done, we have precedents for this from the UK Independence Party and from the Green Party. I don't think I want the BBC or our broadcasters deciding who should be allowed to say something and who shouldn't.
Okay.
I think that it has to be respected.
Bonnie Greer?
My dear late mother-in-law, who I was the first black person she ever met. My late father was the second black person she ever met. This woman was a true Brit, total common sense. Please don't tell me looking at a television show would have her take this man's party to her bosom. The British people have got too much common sense.
Okay. Saeed Abbasi.
I don't think I can put it any better than Bonnie, but I don't think it's been a Christmas present. I think if you look at this audience and if you look at the reaction that there's been out there in the British public, they're absolutely appalled by the values of Mr. Griffin. But in a way, I'm glad that this programme has taken place, because actually Mr. Griffin hasn't been able to put forward his normal PR version of who he is, but he's been exposed for what he really is.
Okay.
Isn't it alarming, though, that it took the BBC to invite Mr. Griffin on TV for the likes of Peter Hain to come forward and say that his party is not lawful, and when he was running for Parliament back in June?
Okay. Nick Griffin, do you regard this as an early Christmas present? I saw you saying thank you, Auntie, for being invited on Question Time.
Actually, there's another word put into my mouth by journalists. I didn't say thank you, Auntie. I don't regard the BBC as Auntie. I regard the BBC as part of overall a thoroughly unpleasant, ultra-leftist establishment, which, as we've seen here tonight, doesn't even want the English to be recognised as an existing people. I think it's wrong.
You never answered the question.
But the BBC, all they've in the end done, as Chris said, really, all the BBC have done has followed the rules that they set some years ago. We crossed the threshold. It would have been wrong to keep us off any longer, so the BBC has just done what they really had to do, and I'm sure it's been a large audience and possibly of interest to some people, so what's the problem?
Jack Straw?
I think this has actually been a catastrophic week for the BNP. Because for the first time, the views of the BNP have been properly scrutinised. People are going onto YouTube, going onto the web, finding out the true views of the BNP, and what we see here is a fantasising conspiracy theorist, man who defines his politics by race rather than by moral values. And the British people will have nothing to do with that. Now, particularly, they know about it.
Okay. So, I'm sorry to those of you trying to get in. I've got to stop because our time's up. It's the end of our hour of question time this week. So, next week, Llandudno, with on the panel Jackie Smith, the former Home Secretary, and the broadcaster and